Hey y'all, Prince Beaming back at it again with the Rico Calavera story part 3. That's crazy. Now we last left off, now the boy Rico is now in Beacon Hills. And he ran into an old friend of his, and if y'all watch Teen Wolf, y'all should know who this old friend is. None other than Mr. Argent, the hunter of all hunters. One of the greatest hunters of all time in Teen Wolf history. But yeah, they got a good background. In fact, Mr. Argent was the one that taught Rico how to use them crossbows. You know, this was a time where he went to Mexico and him and the Calaveras teamed up to bring down a serious wolf pack. But yeah, so Mr. Argent is like a teacher to Rico. Now he ran into him and he asked some questions. But here's the downside. Mr. Argent already knew what he was here for because he heard word from the Calaveras. They actually called him to ask if Rico was there in Beacon Hills, and he told them no. And not to mention, here's what he told Rico. He said this. He said, the Calaveras have now put a price on your head for anything hunter, natural, or supernatural that can bring you in. And Rico was just stuck right now because he couldn't believe his family would go to that lengths just to bring him down. And not to mention, Mr. Argent knew about his werewolf side as well. But he also told him that he knows that the Calaveras will never stop hunting him until they see him dead. And he told and this was what Rico said to Mr. Argent. He said, I will, if this don't work out, I'm trying to find the alpha. Otherwise, I'm going to kill myself because I can't be stuck with this curse. That's exactly what Rico said to Mr. Argent. Now, he told him that he wanted to find the alpha so he can bring down the alpha, maybe possibly find a cure. If not, then kill the alpha for his honor back before, the Calaveras do a beheading. Now, Mr. Argent can respect that, but at the same time, that's a hard bargain to carry. Now, Mr. Argent has been around a lot of werewolves in the time, and not to mention, he's the only good hunter left. If you think about it, Gerard went crazy, threatened to kill his own granddaughter because he was dying and the supernatural had a cure for him, but Scott and them tricked him with the Mountain Ash. And not to mention Kate, her bloodlust, she burned down the entire Hill family, and she remained the werewolf, only to learn how to control it because she didn't want to die. Almost like Rico, because the Calaveras haven't stopped hunting her either, because the law. Any werewolf killed, returned by scratch, they gotta pay the piper. But anyway, that's just an example. Oh yeah, also R.I.P. Allison. So he's literally the only good Argent left. So here's what he told Rico. The first thing he know about becoming a werewolf, because he's been around a lot of them. If you want to learn how to control your werewolf side, you have to find an anchor. And if that doesn't work, then be your own anchor. Same thing that happened to Scott. And same thing that happened in Season 1 and Season 3. Now that's the first thing he knew. He couldn't teach him how to really control it because that's all he knew. He been hunting werewolves for a long time. He know their weaknesses, their spots, but he don't know how they go through that. So that's the only free advice that he got. Now Rico had to hurry up and get up out of Beacon Hills because he knew that the Calaveras was on their way. So he happened to stumble across the forest, and then the wolf side came out again. He had no control over it, and he was running real deep in the forest, just juggling. And then, boom, he clashed into an Omega, just like Scott did in Season 2. Yeah, this was my inspiration right here. And they bumped heads, but this Omega was a girl. They bumped heads. And Rico was actually almost winning the fight, but then she was a pro, though. She had control of her wolf powers. He didn't. He was just out of control again. And then she knocked him out. Yes, that's right. Rico took that L. Only because he didn't know how to master his powers. So yeah, he took that L. Now she wolf changed back into human form. And she knew exactly who he was. So she took him back to her pack. Yeah, her pack location is underground in a nice little bunker somewhere. I came up with the location somewhere in Beacon Hills. But, so she brought Rico back to her pack. And now, as soon as he unchanged back into human form, the werewolves knew exactly who he was. They almost jumped up to fight, was about to kill him. But the Omega, heads up y'all, her name is Isabel. The Omega Isabel, she said stop. But then the Alpha came out and said, do you know who this kid is? She said, do you know? She said, do you know who this guy is? This is Rico Calavera, the best hunter in the world. He killed so many of our kind, it's ridiculous. And you brought him here to our headquarters? So in a minute, the Alpha was about to kill Isabel, but she had to back up and explain why she did it. Like this, she already knew that the Calaveras had a price on their heads, but she started thinking about it. She told her Alpha this, just think about it. If Rico on our side, won't nobody be able to touch us. Yeah, I've heard the stories about him. Yes, I have. But that's the benefit of it. You ever thought of a werewolf and a hunter? You get an abomination. And not to mention what he can do as a human. What do you think he can do as a werewolf? All he needs to learn how to do is control these powers. And he can be maybe our savior. Maybe even more. Maybe the Calaveras, none of the Argents, no more bounty hunters will come after us. And because we got Rico, if we just teach him how to control it, he will thank us and not kill us. And then the Alpha actually agreed with her, saw the point in that. But then here's what she said. That's a good point, but what if he wakes up and tries to kill all of us? It's in the hunter's nature. They see us as abominations. Like this, have you thought about that when he wakes up? When he attack us? And she said, maybe, but I will take full responsibility if he does. And I myself will personally kill him if he tries. And then the Alpha said she liked what she heard. Yes, the Alpha is the female. She said, not bad. Not bad at all. Like this. That's a good idea. But she said this. If the Calaveras come here looking for him, not only will we kill Rico, but we will kill you, Isabel. And we will dishonor you from this pack. And that is the Rico Calavera story part 3. Part 4 will be coming real soon. If y'all want to hear more, please make sure you like and subscribe. Thank you.